one thing that I had no clue about that I feel is really integral when it comes to talking about Ayurveda, food and living, are these three modes of living. Sattva, is it Rajas? Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah.
And Tama. And going back to looking at your decisions around eating plant-based, one of the things that I maybe misunderstood or had underestimated was looking at the vibration of a food. So if you've got meat and that animal has been slaughtered for the meat, that what we're saying here is that food product has a low vibration. There's pain or trauma or suffering within that piece of food. So you're ingesting that. So tell us a bit more about that concept, because that's all new to me.
So sattva means mode of goodness. Rajas means mode of passion. And sattva, rajas, tamasic means mode of ignorance. And so those are the modes that in Ayurveda, they categorize not only the food that you're eating, but again, everything that you allow into your senses. Everything around us lives within these three modes, whether it's essentially going to uplift us, body, mind, or spirit, or whether it's going to deplete us. And so foods, when you're talking about foods in those categories, if you think of mode of goodness, it's what we were talking about. What can bring vitality? And in Ayurveda, it's called ojas. It's considered like the vitality, the golden juice in your body that's produced from all the good food that you eat. There's like a nectar that's produced in the body. And that nectar flows through your blood and your veins. And that's what creates the external glow, the healthy hair, healthy skin, the good quality nails and strength in your body, but also vigor and vitality in the body. So when you're eating foods in the mode of goodness, which are, I mean, if anybody can think of what they would think, what in your mind, think of what you would think of a food in the mode of goodness. It's fresh fruits and vegetables, all the foods that feel like they've still got the brightness and the freshness in them. Basically anything that's the closer it is to where it came from. So when you pick an apple from a tree, the freshness and vitality in that apple will never be the same as one bought in a store. And so essentially the closer it can be to the point of being still connected to nature, that's going to have the most amount of vitality and goodness for your body. And then mode of passion are the foods that stimulate your body. And so it would be considered like caffeine, sugar, the food, spices that invigorate your body. So they're not necessarily bad for you. Nothing in Ayurveda is considered good or bad. It's how it affects your body. And so spices like cayenne pepper and ginger, they're actually very stimulating. They get your blood flowing. And so it actually creates a lot of energy in your body. And so those are considered mode of passion because they are the things that create passion in the body too, and in the mind. And then mode of ignorance are basically the foods that feel lifeless. So deep fried food, for example, is part of that category. When you deep fry vegetables or anything, it loses all its nutrients. It's basically dense with no vitality left in it. And in the same way, when you think about animals have life in them, full force life in them. They have the nutrients that they're eating from the grass and the vegetables that they're eating. But if you think about our bodies, we've all heard that you actually hold suffering in different parts of your bodies. You hold it in your organs, your tissues. You get aches and pains in your physical body from emotions that are trapped in the body. So in the same way, imagine a chicken that has been kept in a cage its whole life, where it's been probably hurt and nipped at and fed with the most, horrible things, the chemicals, whatever it is. Same with cows when you're drinking the milk. They're kept in such terrible conditions. So then imagine, and I don't like giving this, but imagine you were eating the flesh of a human that had been through that suffering, that had been through abuse, that had been through mental and physical abuse constantly, nonstop, that had been given no sunlight, that was just in terrible conditions. And I'm explaining it so people can really think about it as a relative to them. So imagine eating that meat and what you would be feeling from that flesh, from experience. Even energetically, when you meet someone that's been through suffering, that's in a low mood, that's got low energy, do you not feel that from just being next to them, let alone eating their flesh? And so when you eat animal flesh, you have to also realize their life has left them. And so not only are we eating the remnants and the suffering of their energetic body, but then we're eating the corpse of something that no longer has life left in it. So where are the nutrients? Where is anything everything that was good with that animal has officially left the body? And so as soon as we start disintegrating, from the moment the soul leaves the body, from the moment that we die, we're disintegrating as we go on in life. Like that's just part of what
Sadly,
life is. And then your life leaves your body,
Yeah.
and then it starts degenerating at a faster pace. So then imagine the meat that you're then getting in a store, what that's doing to your body, and what's even left in it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the extreme description, but I
No,
always think about
it's
this.
needed. I think
Yeah.
it's up for discussion. It's for everyone to sort
Totally.
of mull over and think about. And like you say, you can do
Absolutely.
plant-based days if it feels
yeah.
too overwhelming or it doesn't feel like it's for you. But I think it's a really interesting consideration and something that I knew very little about. So learning about Ayurveda has been really eye-opening to sort of
Yeah.
think about food at another level, not just how it tastes and how it's making you feel, but actually the energetic value of those products. I think it's really, really interesting. And also you combine into that the 24-hour clock and how and when we should be eating.
Yeah.
Now, I find this really fascinating because I think many of us suffer with poor sleep.
Yeah.
Many of us are so stressed out the whole time and we're eating at weird times of day because we're trying to fit it around work.
Absolutely.
Or some people out there are, working
Night
regular
nurse.
nights.
Yeah, exactly.
People with young babies.
Absolutely.
Not even young babies. My kids still wake up all the time in the night and you're like all over the shop.
Yeah.
How can we try and work with this natural rhythm and the 24-hour clock when we know that things are a bit out of balance or off-centre timing-wise?
Yeah, good question. So the 24-hour clock that I speak about in the book is all to do with the rhythm of nature. And so I always say that we don't live in nature, we are part of it. And so just as the moon and the sun set and rise, that's how our body works too. And so the sun is what our digestion is considered, is referred to as like a digestive fire. And so in the morning, if you think about when you're waking up, your digestion has been dormant almost for about 8 hours, let's say, if people have been sleeping. And so instead of loading on lots and lots in the morning, it says you should stoke your digestion. So having something lighter in the morning to kind of get your body ready and prepared because your digestive fire is essentially dampened during the night. And so you kind of have to, just like you would stoke a fire with small pieces of wood, you have to stoke your digestion in the morning. And then if you think about where the sun is at that point, it's just about rising. And then the sun gets to its peak and its highest in the afternoon. And that also is mimicked in our body, where our digestion is the strongest and the strongest in the afternoon. And so in Ayurveda, it's recommended to have our largest meal then. And so for anybody, even if you're doing nights, you can, I guess people will be sleeping if they're doing their night shifts. And so I feel like with that, you have to adjust your body to that rhythm, but almost invert it.
Yeah.
Where you're still what it is, it's about regulation. That's how I put it down. We have gotten so used to living with our senses, where we bow down to our senses and we're like, oh, my body wants to eat this now and this here and wants to go and do this right now. But instead of them controlling us, we have to reverse it, where we're in control of our senses. And so actually, even if you're trying to live within the rhythm of nature and you can't do that because of the work that you do, instead try regulation. And so that means, am I eating at the right times, enough time between the meals? That's really important, because when you end up eating over and over again and like snacking in between and having lots of meals, your digestion doesn't get the opportunity to digest what was already in there. And so you just keep adding and adding. And so Ayurveda recommends 3 hours between meals. So even if you're able to do your breakfast, you have at least a 3-hour gap. You have your lunch, 3-hour gap, and then you eat your dinner. And if you're, awake during the night, you have that same rhythm, but you stick to that. And so rhythm just means it can be a personal rhythm. It doesn't necessarily have to be a nature rhythm, but having a methodical way to actually eat and receive nourishment is really important for your body, because we're essentially a mechanism too. Like, we like regularity even if we think we don't.